thanks very much for the invitation. It's nice to be back in Hull. I think the last time I was here was 1991 in a pub, watching the House Martins, believe it or not. So it's nice to be back. This is just a little, probably a bit of light relief, really, looking at Smart TSF. I'm not here to try and sell it to you. This is me. This is what I thought. As soon as I was introduced to it, it's like all these things. It's a gimmick. I don't want it. I haven't got a problem. Take it away. I'm going to be slower. I'm going to be less efficient. Just, I don't want it. You'll probably recognize Damien sitting somewhere. This was Damien talking to our department, trying to sell us on Smart TSF. You can see we're all looking very engaged, and we really want it. I hated it. I just didn't want it. Which one's the funniest? The cat. I mean, even the cat's looking pissed off. Yeah. But then I started to like it. I tried it, and I was trying to figure out, and this is kind of goes with non-union, that we've heard lots of really good talks, but one of the key things, it's optimizing mechanics and the influence it has on biology. And I think that's what Smart TSF brings. So if you want a very specific amount of length and correction, you can get it. And you look at the bone and there's nothing out of line. The bone's really uniform. Everything's healed beautifully. And that just got me thinking, why is it? And I think this is probably what it is, that the smart technology with the beacon turns that two-dimensional image into a three-dimensional reality that you and I cannot do. We sit there and look at it, and these subtle angulations in coronal sagittal planes we don't appreciate with our naked eye. And it builds that in automatically. And I think that has a subtle influence on the biomechanics and is really important. And I think the message that you're hearing again and again in this session is the mechanical environment of that initial fracture hematoma. And I think this is a huge step forward. So really just to highlight with a couple of cases, this guy was absolutely miserable. Why has he had that bone corrected where it's been corrected? Anyone? Was that the right place to do it or the wrong place to do it? Anyone? Throw out an answer. Like it? Don't like it?
Back row. Gavin, you're doing sign language. Gavin doesn't like it.
Good, I don't like it either. Why don't you like it? Yeah, okay. So why was it done there? Yeah, well, because it was easy, right? That's just a nice, easy bit of bone. We don't need to go to the scary bits at the top and the bottom, yeah? So this was completely wrong, and this guy was miserable, and it took forever to get this thing healed. So then he wanted the other side done. And I was like, okay. And this is where Smart came in. And I sat there thinking, okay, where does it need to be done? Okay, so we can look at it, we can measure, stick some angles, we can measure a distance. That's where I want to do a corticotomy, because it's easy. Yeah, that's a nice, simple bit of bone. It's not scary. Will it work? Yes, that's fine. But again, that's going to give me the same problem that he had on the other side. There's a big translational deformity. His joints are flat, but he's still not going to be happy. So I can then plug it back in and go, well, that's an easy, safe place to correct, but why is that not going to work? What's the problem with doing it there? I mean, it's easy. Anyone? Sorry?
To be prominent under the skin.
Yeah, it'd be a little bit prominent under the skin. What do you think about the contact area? Tiny, yeah? Really horrible, yeah? That's going to take forever to heal, or probably not heal, and function will be poor. So I'll just go, okay, what if I do it there? Better? Yeah? Less prominent? Better contact area? And what about the mechanics of the limb? Yeah, great. Okay, so I can then measure it and go, that's where I need to cut it, and that's where I'm going to end up. And then I can do the same with the sagittal plane. Is my proximal one going to give me the correction I want? Yes. And then you can just go and do it. And it's great, so you're pre-planning everything with optimal biomechanics before you even start. You've got a plan saved, you go in, you cut it, line it up, and it all looks good. And again, it's just going back to rapid healing because of optimized biomechanics. Okay, it's a non-union session. Here's non-union. Okay, what are we going to correct? Anyone? No? Nobody wants it? Man, that's a tough crowd this morning. I'll just throw something at somebody. Okay, I mean, just in terms of a deformity, okay? For a calc non-union, what deformity are we going to correct here? How are we going to figure that out? Draw one. Brilliant. Wow, like with pen and paper. Shut up. Wow, loving it, yeah. Well, it's kind of like a virtual pen and paper. And trying to figure out what you're trying to correct with these problems is incredibly difficult. I sat there and look at it, and then you think, well, actually, I'll make it really easy. So we've got SuperDot, which I love this thing. It's great. So all I do is I go, well, I want that bit to be there. And it tells me what I need to correct. I don't have to think about this. I don't have to figure it out. So it's taken a really complicated three-dimensional problem and simplified it. So I'm just going, okay, put it there. That's where I want it to be. The tricky bit is getting it there, but you can do it. So it's just a way of adding to an analysis method to give you an end result, okay? So it's making a difficult problem much simpler with very simple technology, okay? But it doesn't need to be with a frame. It's just a bit of geometrical planning. So we're seeing loads of these in Bristol now, unfortunately. I'm sure everyone else has the same problem with these periprosthetics. So it's fixed by one of my arthroplasty colleagues, unfortunately. Is this going to work?
I'm going to go roving around the room.
Thank you. I was going to have to start throwing things.
Is this going to work?
And if it's not going to work, why not? I mean, clearly it's not going to work, otherwise I wouldn't have shown it.
No, it's not going to work because it's
Dead bone.
the proximal part, probably the screw comes to be more close to the fracture to increase the stiffness. So we have a close and far principle.
Okay.
And,
So you think it's not going to work because the construct isn't
Yeah.
stable enough?
Okay.
It's not near far as well.
Not near, far, far. Okay.
Enough strain around the gauge.
Okay. What do you think about the fracture side? High strain, low strain?
Use your mic.
High strain.
High strain, yeah. Short, transverse, miserable. Yeah. Anyone else? Is it reduced?
Yeah, somebody pick the mic there. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, at the back.
At the proximal side, there seems to be a cement in the medullary canal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yep.
going to add to that as well. So the fracture's not reduced. I don't think there's enough bone contact, and the issue is the fact that they've got bone cement in the medullary canal.
Yeah. So overall, we're thinking a solid 3 out of 10. Okay. So not surprisingly, it's just a question of where it's going to fail. So it breaks at the big stress rise in the subtroch region. So somebody goes back, has another go. Do we like this one better? I love the way there's not a flicker. Everyone's sitting there dealing with these all the time.
Sheba, have you got a mic there yet?
They've stripped so much getting those wires round at the proximal segment as well that I'm not sure that they've actually improved it. I don't think it's going to work.
Okay. Is it a biomechanically a better construct?
Maybe.
Worse?
Don't think it's worse.
It's too rigid.
Too rigid? Okay.
Anyone like this one? Yeah, somebody with a mic there.
The interesting two screws in the neck there.
Yep. Interesting. Why? Oh.
Sufficiently or not, because you're just propagating your chances of further fractures more proximal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably not an unreasonable thought. You know, I mean, she's going to keep on falling. We can't cure gravity. So.
You can see there's a lot of stress shielding there as well. A lot of stress shielding.
Okay.
There's somebody with a hand up at the back.
In the proximal, there is a plate, and the end plate of the plate and the proximal part of the knee implant are at the same level. So there is a stress riser over here, and that can lead to another fracture. Also, we are going with the absolute stability, and rather than absolute stability, we should have gone for a relative stability.
Okay. So, is that a surprise? No? Okay. What now? Total femur? Did everyone hear that? Can we give him a microphone? Because that's absolutely...
So just go back one.
Have you turned it on, Simon?
You,
Look at that very left-hand film, the femurs varus. And it failed inter varus because that's what they always damn well do, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, your femur just doesn't like being varus.
Yeah. And again, it's 2 major operations, and all because somebody missed.
The 11th commandment.
Yeah, indeed. Thou shalt not commit varus, okay? So, you know, we need to look and be aware of this, okay? And effectively, it's a fracture, but it's a fracture with a deformity. So, key principle, get rid of the deformity, and your fracture will heal. If you don't, it won't, yeah? And again, it's going back to that message, biomechanics. It's that interplay of the mechanics and the biology. The two go hand in hand. If you don't optimize the mechanics, doesn't matter what you do to the biology, it will not work. So I go even simpler in terms of managing non-union. I don't look at classifications, I just look at S's. There's 6, yeah? Straighten, stabilize, sterilize, stimulate, soft tissues, substitute. If it's missing bone or skin, you've got to deal with it. Make sure the soft tissue envelope's healthy. Stimulate biology systemically. Very rarely would I think about grafting. I think we've heard great talks that actually the local environment is usually all right. Sterilize, is it infected? I'll treat that. Get the stability right, we've talked about that, and got to make it straight. I think Simon hit it straight on the head, immediate. This is never going to work. You can throw as much metal at it unless you make it straight. And there it is, yeah? Go back to a long leg film prior to the fracture. It's screaming, okay? So always look and see, you know, bones should heal. There's a problem if it doesn't, and you've got to look for it, it is. So systemic biology, I screen my patients routinely. Probably about 1 in 5 have a correctable abnormality of something. You will find weird and wacky things like platelet dysfunction, leukemics, all sorts of stuff, okay? But you are not a psychic, okay? If you don't look, you'll miss. You'll do a beautiful reconstruction mechanically, but if the underlying bone isn't working normally, it won't heal, okay? So it's mechanics and biology together. So again, we can get the sandbox out, okay? I've got to straighten this. Where am I going to straighten it? Well, that's where it wants to be made straight. I can measure that. How much straightening? Well, that's where I want to put the leg, because it's straight then, it should heal. So I can have a little look. It's 10 degrees. I'm going to go back. So if I take a 5-degree wedge, I've got good contact. I can change the obliquity of the fracture, avoid it being transverse. I can take it to theatre. I can cut it exactly where it needs to be cut. I can do exactly the aerodynamic correction that I want, replate, get it straight, and hopefully it should heal, yeah? But again, there was nothing clever about this other than the first step was missed, yeah? That the mechanical environment for this fracture was always wrong, yeah? So ultimately, no, you don't need Smart TSF. I'm not here to sell you it. But what I am saying is, I think it's a hugely powerful tool that supports this message that we've been talking about of that interplay between mechanics and biology. It's very accurate. I think you can optimize the biomechanics to get more rapid healing. It's a visual assessment of a complex correction. Yeah, if you're trying to figure out where something needs to go, we can now do that electronically. It's the eye, pen and paper. Yeah, it's made life easier. It's great for planning corrective osteotomies. It's really powerful tool for non-union. Yeah, I mean, the applications are down to you. And I think essentially it's something now can help us to make something very complicated much more simple. Thank you.